In the quaint southern town of Kinston, North Carolina, they were a bona fide power couple.
They belonged to the upper crust of society.
He was so charming and such a gentleman. She was very well dressed, very well put together.
You couldn't ask for a better couple.
But their charmed life together crumbles when a mysterious meeting ends in bloodshed.
You could see his body laying right beside the vehicle.
An investigation exposes tarnish in a once polished reputation.
From his words, they were having an affair.
The community could not believe it.
It was like, yeah, I did it for the money.
And as the investigation makes headway, a 20-year-old secret that had long since been laid to rest returns to the surface.
We got it up out of the ground, opened the casket.
You don't hang out your dirty linens for the world to see.
She said there is a lot going to come out that people don't know about.
Kinston, North Carolina is a place where the tea is sweet and neighbors look out for each other.
Kinston, North Carolina, it's a small town. Once you get in this area, you're in the South. I mean, be ye not confused. This is the South. A lot of traditions. We still pull over to the side of the road for any funeral procession. That's what we do.
Kinston's a family-oriented community. Everybody likes each other. Everybody help each other. And everybody knew each other.
But the harmony of this small southern town is disturbed on Tuesday, January 21st, 1992. At 7:42 a.m., 55-year-old town socialite Sylvia White bursts through the doors of the Kinston Police Department, distraught over her husband, Billy White.
She's crying, very hysterical, and telling me that Billy went to meet a man somewhere out in the county to sell a large insurance policy and that he had not come home.
Sylvie was up at midnight and Bill still hadn't returned from his meeting.
Police are familiar with 59-year-old Billy White Sr., a prominent businessman in town.
We, the police, knowing Billy, said, well, maybe he just got off with some friends. They might have had some drinks and maybe he didn't show up. But we took the report of him missing and the vehicle he was driving.
After a day passes with no sign of Billy, local authorities launch a search effort.
I went over and asked our chief, could we go get a plane from the airport and go flying and just see could we find his vehicle or see him anywhere.
Billy Carlisle White was born on December 30th, 1932, and lived in rural North Carolina all his life.
He was a Southern boy, raised, born and bred, true grit all the way.
Billy was very outgoing, very friendly, and he was just nice to everybody. Everybody enjoyed talking with Billy.
Billy capitalized on his charisma and became a door-to-door insurance salesman.
He was so charming and such a gentleman that he sold you something, and then when he walked out the door, you realized, oh, I just purchased an insurance policy.
Matter of fact, he probably sold 90% of the police officers some type of insurance. He was great friends with police officers, and we all liked him and his family. We knew them personally.
In 1953, the young businessman married Anita Jones. As Billy climbed the sales ranks, Anita stayed home to raise a growing brood of children. In 1969, she delivered their fourth child, Billy Carlisle White Jr.
After Anita gave birth to little Bill, she had a lot of problems. She was unstable. Now we would call that postpartum depression, but back in the 1960s, we didn't have that diagnosis.
Anita's battle with her mental health eventually took a toll on her relationship with Billy.
It was agreed that they would divorce and Bill would take care of the kids. He had his hands full. He was a rising career man. He was trying to make it in the insurance world and raise 4 children.
As chance would have it, a concerned neighbor, Sylvia Ipock, came to the rescue.
Sylvia didn't live too far from them, probably a few doors down.
Sylvia would bring a hot meal to the family. She would do their laundry, and Sylvia was a godsend for him.
Like Billy, Sylvia was a Southerner, through and through. Born on November 15, 1936 in Lenoir County, Sylvia had a rocky childhood.
Sylvia's mother died when she was 5. She had suffered an appendicitis attack. And a few years later, Sylvia's father died from alcoholism. So she was 5 when she was sent to an orphanage. Eventually, her sister petitioned the courts and she was able to get legal guardianship of Sylvia.
After moving in with her older sister, 15-year-old Sylvia came into her own.
Sylvia had a fiery streak. She had the attitude that, I'm a Southern girl, we can do anything.
A teenage marriage gave Sylvia a son, but the marriage soon ended in divorce. In 1959, the single mother met her next suitor, 24-year-old Leslie Ipock.
Leslie Ipock was easygoing, and he worked out the overnight transportation.
She was in her early 20s. They got married quickly. They had 2 children and were living the life. She was as happy as she'd ever been.
With Leslie by her side, Sylvia transformed from a restless Spitfire into a refined Southern woman. While Sylvia was thriving, the same couldn't be said for her husband.
He was having some health-related issues from the chemicals from the trucking firm that he worked for.
He'd get sick and he'd get well again. He'd get sick and he'd get well again.
When doctors failed to treat his consistent symptoms, Leslie sank into a deep depression. In June 1967, things went from bad to worse.
Sylvia comes home, calls out to Leslie. Leslie, where are you? Bedroom.
She opened the door and went in there, and he was shot in the left side of his head.
He had committed suicide.
With Leslie's death, Sylvia became a single mother once again. She soon noticed that her neighbor, Billy White, was experiencing a similar struggle.
She was a widow with 3 boys. He was a single man with 4 children. Being the Southern gal that she was, she chose to swoop down and come in and do laundry. She cooked him meals, and he needed someone like that in his life.
Billy was extremely good to Sylvia. He would bring her gifts and he would bring her flowers. They seemed like a happy couple.
Billy and Sylvia married on December 3rd, 1971.
They bought a larger home. Sylvia was a full-time mom to Billy's children and obviously